Sydney Sweeney has finally broken her silence on the rumors that she's dating Scooter Braun, and what she revealed shocked everyone. For weeks, the internet has been buzzing with speculation, with fans demanding answers and critics tearing apart every single move she's made. Sydney's reputation has already been hanging by a thread after months of headline-making controversies. And now, her connection to Scooter Braun, one of the most hated figures in Hollywood, has sent her image into full freefall. But here's the twist. Instead of ignoring the noise or letting her team do damage control, Sydney spoke up. And her choice of words? Let's just say they didn't put out the fire, they poured gasoline on it. So before we get into the wild details of what Sydney actually said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because I haven't slept yet researching Sydney Sweeney's love life for 4 hours. The dating rumors first surfaced after Sydney was spotted at none other than Jeff Bezos' wedding. At first, people were just confused about why she was there at all, since she's not exactly besties with Bezos or Lauren Sanchez. But then whispers started swirling that the wedding was also where she first connected with Scooter Braun. Not long after, Page 6 and TMZ began reporting that the two had been spending time together. Insiders claimed Scooter was obsessed with Sydney after meeting her at the wedding, and paparazzi quickly caught on. Suddenly, there were blurry photos of them at restaurants, sneaky shots of them leaving the same events, and headlines suggesting they weren't just acquaintances anymore. The internet reaction? Total chaos. Fans flooded social media with disbelief. Out of all the men in Hollywood, it had to be him? The backlash was instant and brutal. People dragged Sydney for choosing someone with such a toxic reputation, especially at a time when her own image was already shaky. The age gap didn't help either. Sydney is 27, Scooter's 44, and people couldn't wrap their heads around why she would attach herself to someone not only older, but also so disliked. After all, Scooter isn't just any Hollywood figure. He's one of the most polarizing names in the industry. His feud with Taylor Swift over her masters turned him into public enemy #1. And when Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, and Justin Bieber all pulled away from him, it looked like the final nail in his reputation's coffin. So when fans started putting Sydney next to Scooter in the same sentence, the internet basically lost it. And with the pressure mounting, Sydney finally addressed the rumors. And when people demanded answers, Sydney finally spoke up. After days of nonstop speculation, Sydney finally broke her silence. Now, she didn't post a full-blown statement or sit down for some tell-all interview. That's not her style. Instead, she slipped in a carefully chosen response during an appearance tied to one of her upcoming projects. When a reporter pressed her about the dating rumors, Sydney didn't laugh them off, and she didn't deny them either. Instead, she gave a sly smile and said something along the lines of, "I know what's being said, but people don't know the full story." That single line sent shockwaves across the internet. It wasn't a confirmation, but it wasn't a denial. It was vague enough to keep people guessing, but pointed enough to feel intentional. Sydney could have shut it down right then and there. She could have ended the rumors with one word, but she didn't. And fans immediately started dissecting her response, arguing over whether it was her way of low-key admitting the relationship or simply brushing off the drama. What made her words even more shocking was the timing. She's already under fire from multiple controversies, and instead of playing it safe, she leaned into the attention. To some, it looked like a bold PR move, using the buzz to stay relevant. To others, it felt like Sydney was spiraling, making choices that only added fuel to the fire. And that's why her statement didn't calm anyone down. It only made people more obsessed with piecing together the truth. But to really understand why her words caused such a stir, we have to look at the controversies that led up to this moment. Before the dating rumors ever surfaced, Sydney was already making headlines for something bizarre. Back in June, she teamed up with the men's body care brand Dr. Squatch to release a limited edition soap called Sydney's Bathwater Bliss. And yes, it was exactly what it sounds like. The bar was marketed as containing actual droplets of her used bathwater. Sydney explained the idea in GQ, saying fans constantly joked online about wanting her bathwater, so she decided to lean into the joke and give them a playful product. Only 5,000 bars were made, and they sold out almost instantly. But the internet's reaction was split. Some thought it was a fun, tongue-in-cheek move that showed Sydney doesn't take herself too seriously. Others saw it as a desperate gimmick that pandered to male fantasies, reducing her to a marketing tool instead of the talented actress she's known to be. The backlash was swift. Critics argued that the soap reinforced the sexualization of female celebrities and made Sydney look more like an influencer chasing clout than a rising Hollywood star. Suddenly, the cool, relatable girl who fixed cars and gave off down-to-earth vibes was being accused of selling out in the most uncomfortable way possible. And just when the soap scandal started dying down, Sydney managed to land herself in even hotter water. And just when people thought things couldn't get stranger, Sydney showed up at a billionaire wedding. Not long after the soap fiasco, Sydney popped up in headlines again, this time for being a guest at Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's wedding. And immediately, fans were confused. Sydney has never been publicly close to Bezos or Sanchez, so why was she suddenly rubbing elbows with billionaires at one of the most extravagant weddings of the decade? Reports from outlets like Vanity Fair and Page Six quickly offered an explanation. Sydney is tied to a potential Amazon MGM Studios project, a video game adaptation that she's rumored to star in and produce. In other words, she was there on business. Still, that didn't stop the internet from turning on her. For years, Sydney had carefully cultivated this relatable Hollywood star energy, the kind of actress who works on cars, seems approachable, and feels like one of the good ones. But when photos surfaced of her at Bezos' wedding, fans accused her of selling out, trading her authenticity for access to billionaire circles. To them, it felt like she was crossing to the other side. And here's the kicker. That wedding didn't just spark backlash, it also introduced Sydney to Scooter Braun. Multiple outlets reported that Scooter was obsessed with her after the event, and sources claimed he immediately began pursuing her. What was meant to be just another Hollywood networking moment quickly spiraled into something much bigger, setting the stage for the dating rumors that would dominate headlines weeks later. So not only did the Bezos wedding hurt Sydney's reputation with fans, it also became the origin story of her most controversial relationship. And that connection set the stage for the backlash of the year.
If the soap scandal and Bezos wedding weren't enough, Sydney then found herself in the middle of a full-blown advertising disaster. When American Eagle announced her as the face of their latest campaign, it should have been a major career win. Sydney was one of Hollywood's hottest rising stars, beloved for her roles in Euphoria and Anyone But You. The tagline they chose? Sydney Sweeney has great genes. At first, it seemed playful, a cheeky pun linking denim to genetics. But that's exactly where the problem started. The ad, which featured Sydney with her blonde hair and blue eyes front and center, sparked outrage online. Critics argued that the great genes wordplay carried undertones of eugenics and outdated ideas about beauty standards. The backlash snowballed. People claimed the campaign unintentionally celebrated racial supremacy ideals, with some even comparing it to controversial ads from the 1980s. American Eagle tried to defend the campaign, saying it was only ever about individuality and self-expression, but by then the damage was done. Sydney, who should have been celebrating a major brand partnership, was instead facing boycotts and online fury. For the first time, people weren't just questioning her business choices, they were openly reconsidering whether they even wanted to support her projects at all. And this is the exact climate Sydney was in when the dating rumors with Scooter Braun hit the internet. To her critics, it felt like proof that she was spiraling from one misstep to another. So, when dating rumors with Scooter hit the headlines, the reaction was even harsher. To understand why Sydney's rumored romance with Scooter Braun hit like a nuclear bomb, you have to know just how disliked Scooter really is in Hollywood. For years, Scooter was seen as one of the most powerful managers in the industry, guiding the careers of Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and Demi Lovato. But that power came crashing down after his infamous feud with Taylor Swift. Back in 2019, Scooter purchased Big Machine Label Group, and with it, the masters to Taylor's first 6 albums. Overnight, Taylor lost control of her life's work, while Scooter profited off her biggest hits. She called it her worst-case scenario, and the move turned him into public enemy number 1. Fans accused him of exploiting her legacy, and the Free Taylor movement only grew louder as she fought to re-record her catalog. But the damage to Scooter's image didn't stop there. Over time, his own artists began jumping ship. Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, and even Justin Bieber distanced themselves from him, with reports suggesting they felt mismanaged, betrayed, or simply done with his drama. One by one, his empire began crumbling. So when Sydney Sweeney, a young, rising actress with the world at her feet, was suddenly linked to Scooter, fans saw it as the ultimate red flag. Why would she, of all people, align herself with a man whose reputation is so toxic that even his biggest stars abandon him? It wasn't just about romance, it was about optics. And for someone already accused of selling out, this connection looked like the final nail in the coffin for her relatable image. And this is exactly why Sydney's vague response only made things worse.
When Sydney finally spoke up about the Scooter rumors, fans were hoping for a clear answer. Either she'd shut it down completely, or she'd own it. But instead, her vague, "people don't know the full story" response left everyone more confused than ever. And the reaction? Absolutely brutal. On Twitter and TikTok, people accused her of playing games with her reputation, calling the move attention-seeking. Fans who once defended her against the soap backlash were now saying they couldn't support her anymore. Memes spread comparing her to other celebrities who fumbled their bag by attaching themselves to the wrong people. The timing only made things worse. Sydney was coming off back-to-back controversies, so instead of looking confident or mysterious, her words felt calculated. To critics, it seemed like she was deliberately leaning into scandal to stay in the headlines. But instead of building hype, it was destroying trust. Even gossip outlets picked up on the shift. Headlines described her as spiraling, risking it all, and losing touch with fans. What was meant to be a moment of control ended up becoming her most chaotic moment yet. And at the center of it all was one question. Was she really dating Scooter Braun, or was she just using the rumor to stay relevant? But regardless of the truth, one thing is certain. Sydney's image will never be the same.
At this point, it almost doesn't matter whether Sydney is actually dating Scooter Braun or not. The damage is already done. In Hollywood, perception is everything. And right now, the perception of Sydney Sweeney is shifting from America's rising star to a celebrity making reckless choices. The Soch scandal made people question her judgment. The Bezos wedding made people question her authenticity. The American Eagle campaign made people question her values. And now, the Scooter Braun rumors have made people question her entire future. If she is dating Scooter, she risks alienating not just her fan base, but also industry players who don't want to associate with his baggage. If she isn't dating him and is just letting the rumor ride, then she's risking her credibility, because at some point, people stop seeing you as mysterious and start seeing you as manipulative. Either way, this moment feels like a turning point. Sydney can either rebuild her image carefully or let the chaos define her. And for someone who was once praised as one of Hollywood's most relatable stars, it's a dangerous gamble. The truth is, Sydney's career is now tied to a single question. Can she bounce back, or has her silence and her connection to Scooter already written the next chapter for her? This entire situation proves just how fast Hollywood can turn on you.
One minute you're America's sweetheart, the next you're the internet's favorite target, and Sydney Sweeney is learning that the hard way. But what do you think? Is this just another overblown rumor, or is Sydney making the biggest mistake of her career? Drop your thoughts below, because this debate is far from over. And hey, if you want to stay updated every time a story like this blows up, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because trust me, this Sydney and Scooter drama, it's only just beginning.